I think if you were to ask many photographers and filmmakers out in the community if they could only have one lens, a must-have go-to lens, what they would choose, and most of them would probably say a 24-70. It's that very common basic range, but it covers the most popular and standard focal lengths out there, and this is the 28-70 f2.8 from Sigma. So as many of you know, I picked up this lens at the start of this year and I've been testing it out ever since. And to be frankly honest, it's really good. I've been very impressed and I'm totally happy with my purchase. It's a lens that I thought would be a brilliant alternative to the traditional 24-70 from Sigma that is quite large and bulky and £300 more expensive. This lens comes in at £760 and the Sigma 24-70 at the moment comes in at £1,000. You're saving £300, but what are you missing out on, if anything? And what even is the difference? Well, let's dive into it. This lens is considerably smaller than the 24-70. It also comes in at almost half of the weight. The 24-70 weighs about 835 grams, whereas this one only 470. And that has to be said, is a big difference. Having a lighter lens on your camera often helps with the balance and it definitely helps your arm on a long day of shooting. This lens is primarily constructed out of some sort of plastic, but I think it's a plastic composite of some sort because it's not cheap plastic. It feels particularly premium, and out of all the plastic lenses that I've picked up, it's not cheap feeling. Sigma are renowned for making very high quality lenses, and that's no different with this lens. You've of course got the focal length from 28-70. That's 4mm less wide at the wide end, if that makes sense, than the 24-70. Some people would think that's a major difference, but for me that's not the end of the world. You're still getting the majority, if not pretty much all of that range. It has a few less elements than the 24-70. I'm comparing this a lot because I guess that is the natural comparison to make. All of the photos and videos I've shot basically this year have been taken on this lens, and so I've gone through a hell of a lot of photos in Lightroom, editing and analysing the quality of these images. And I've got to say, I'm really impressed. I wouldn't really be desiring any more. Of course, there are probably lenses out there that could inch you a tiny little increase in image quality or a tiny bit more sharpness, but in reality, is anyone really going to notice? I feel like that's something that a lot of us get hung up on in the photography and video community. There are professionals out there that need the best of the best, the absolute pinnacle of image quality, sharpness. However, for most people, especially if you're starting out, you don't need the best of the best, the highest pinpoint sharpness quality, because realistically, the difference between that and this is actually very small. I've shot a wide range of different things, both in photos and videos with this lens over the last few months, and it hasn't had any problems keeping up with activities such as high action sports or fast moving objects, and the autofocus is nice and quiet for video, which is brilliant. If you're interested in seeing exactly how this lens performs when it comes to video and photo, well, all the photos I've taken this year that I posted on my Instagram, and also there's going to be a link down in the description of this video to a page on my website where you can check out a bunch of the photos I've taken this year in nice tip-top quality, so you can properly check it out. In terms of video side of things, if you're looking to find out what this lens is like for video, well, just have a look at all the videos I've made this year because they're all made using this lens. This lens isn't particularly weather sealed. It doesn't have a very large weather sealing gasket, so I would be careful taking it out into rainy conditions or very wet conditions. One thing to note is that you could experience some issues. I'm not sure how weather sealed it is because this lens does extend when you zoom in, which obviously does leave a gap for dust and water and moisture to get in, so I guess that's something you need to consider if you're going to be shooting in torrential rain or storms or something. So if you're doing that, then this probably isn't the lens for you, but I don't think that's most of us, right? This lens doesn't have an abundance of switches like you might find on the 24-70 art lens. It only has one switch on the lens, which is the AF to MF manual focus switch. It's a very well made switch. Sounds pretty good. and it is very high quality. However, there's no other switches or buttons, so if that's something you really like on your lenses, this is lacking that. In terms of the actual mechanisms of the lens, you have obviously the zoom ring, which is a nice high quality. It has kind of a textured rubber material on it, but it feels, again, very high quality. For the price, I'm very impressed with the quality of this lens. And then we also have the focus ring, of course, again, very similar materials. This time it's kind of a more plasticky material, but again, a textured finish. And this performs very well. It's an electronically controlled system, but it does a good job. On other lenses that Sigma make, particularly in their art range, like the 24-70, you'll also find a zoom lock and an extra custom button. This lens doesn't have that, but I feel like it's not, again, a total essential. Some people really love those buttons, but for me, it's never something that I've totally got into using, so it's not really much of a downside for me, but it's something worth noting. The thread size on this lens is 67mm, which again is very standard. Unlike some of the art lenses that Sigma makes, this is a much more standard size for your filter thread, which is obviously good because you'll save money on your filters. Okay, a couple of the things that I would like to see improved with this lens if they make another version, or things that you should know. Firstly, there is a little bit of barrel distortion on your photos, especially at the wide end. It's nothing that Lightroom can't fix. That is something to note. You will get quite a lot of warping. Again, you just fix it in post super easily with one button in Lightroom, but it's worth mentioning. And secondly, the weather sealing. I don't really understand why lenses nowadays are sold without weather sealing. It seems like it's something that just should be standard on all lenses. The gasket on here is very thin, and I feel like it's just something that should be made standard. I feel like if we mention it enough, the lens manufacturers will eventually listen to us and start putting more weather sealing on their kind of more budget-friendly lenses. They're my only two real gripes with it. It is a really solid lens and I'm really impressed. I'm very happy with my purchase and I would massively recommend it to anyone who's looking to get that mid-range zoom without having to pay that extra price, because to be honest, you'll hardly notice a difference. But that's about it for this video. If you did enjoy it, make sure to leave it a like. And don't forget that down in the description, you've got the link to that website where you can check out all the photos I've taken with this lens so that you can pixel peep and wonder all you like. If you've got any questions, make sure to leave them down in the description below, in the comment section below, and I will make sure to get back to you as quickly as possible. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.